The next team might be my favorite team to watch during the offseason, the New Orleans Pelicans. What is
Yeah.
your biggest question for them entering this summer?
All right. I'm going to take the Zion one off the table because I mean, it's Zion, right? Like what happens? Like, can he play? Can you reincorporate him? Can everything Zion, right? For me, it's they have one free agent, like a non two way guys. They have one free agent. So it's where do they go with the rest of the roster? Because you've got you kind of look at it and it's I find it hard in their top 10, 11 guys to really look at somebody where, well, that's the spot I really want to upgrade. That's the one I want to replace. And again, this is all assuming Zion is there.
Mhm.
But when they're 5.8 million under the tax, they're about 11.8 or so under the apron. I I look at it and I start to say, all right, well, that's enough where you could, as long as you want to go into the tax, or you feel like we can get out of a deal later if we need to, you can use that full mid level, go get somebody. Because as we talked about a while back, is there's not a ton of cap space out there. So what turns into is the mid level then that's real spending power. You can get something where in a market where 5, 6, 7 teams have cap space, they may not have that same spending power. So that's what I mean, obviously it's Zion, Zion, Zion. Fully get that. But if it's not him, where are you going? But it's what is it that you need to upgrade? Because I kind of like a lot of what they've already got in place.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And look, people will look at the record and say, well, why are you expecting a huge jump from them? Why are they so good? They weren't even great after the CJ McCollum trade. They just took the best team in the NBA to 6 games. Devin Booker was missing, but hey, so was Zion for the Pelicans. And I think also I was so impressed with how Willie Green had them hustling in transition on defense specifically after they started.
Yeah.
What was it, 3-16 or whatever? And the fact you found Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado, them having another year of experience. I think this team adding Zion, and I'd be with you. I guess I won't. I've been told it's not a non-issue, but like he's not going anywhere. Like there's just
Yeah.
will he sign an extension or get to restricted free agency to me is the question. And I would probably lean towards some version of an extension. But so yeah, I'm with you that that's not the issue. I'm more like, well, what could this team be with him? And the two things that stand out, I think Zion with Ingram and Steve McCollum gives you flexibility in the sense that you can change up your looks at the quote unquote one. And they need a better option than Devonte Graham right now. Like just someone who's not shooting the ball as well as they used to and became a defensive liability, playoff liability for them big time. I also think though, if you're going to be playing Zion Williamson, you need to upgrade like the rim protection element of your roster. And I know Pelicans fans will tell me that Jonas Valanciunas is a better defender than credited, and that he is technically a floor spacer at this point. I'll agree with all that. I know Jackson Hayes can be frenetic on the defensive end as well. I still think there's room to upgrade from there. A lot of people think maybe Larry Nance Jr. is just more of the answer and that you don't need to. I still said New Orleans should be in on a Miles Turner trade if he becomes or stays available. And I'll stand by that. If you don't want that, I'm in love with Larry Nance Jr. and the way he played. I got Danny Green to the Raptors throw-in vibes when he was just thrown into that CJ McCollum deal with New Orleans. So they are set up, but it feels like if you can get like, we mentioned Gary Payton the second, even a Tyus Jones type option at the one, like going from Devonte Graham to that. Is there a trade you could make where look, you have this Lakers pick now? And what can you attach to that? You have stackable contracts, even if they're not on players
Mm-hmm.
that teams deem useful, or even if they're not on particularly high-end contracts, like Devonte Graham's deal is not aging too well at this point. So there are assets that they have and avenues to explore. And it feels like making an addition at that level, where if it's a Tyus Jones or if Gary Payton II's okay, or if you're able to make a trade to improve your rim protection, or even just having another rim protective body on the roster to choose from, this could be like, I know the West is going to be hellacious next year, but this still feels like with a Zion, they could have top 5 in the league potential, top 5 in the conference potential. And that then leads me to believe, and given who they were linked to last summer when we all made fun of them for whiffing on Kyle Lowry and Chris Paul, it just feels like they're going to default to a sense of urgency, especially after that CJ McCollum trade. And I'm absolutely 100% unequivocally here for it.
I'm with you on all but one thing you said. I actually think Devonte Graham in the 6-man scoring guard role can be pretty good. I think he's a little overmatched when you need a lot more out of him. But now you've got McCollum. McCollum's going to clearly be the point guard. I'm putting it in quotations because it's not right. He's not going to function that way necessarily traditionally, but he's going to be the one in all terms. And what he'll really defend is the weaker of the two guards because Herb Jones will take the better of the two. But you've got more than enough playmaking with Zion and Brandon Ingram on the floor. I think Herb Jones, that's probably the next thing. Everybody's focused on the shooting. I want to see him maybe take a Mikal Bridges like approach where can get 3-4 assists per game, just off of the short roll and making, plays just kind of probably not secondary, but like tertiary attacks, like, driving as the defense is scrambled and those kind of things. I mean, I'm with you. Miles Turner next to Zion fit seems like the ideal world, right, for everybody because he blocks shots, he shoots with range, he does all that stuff. How you get there, I don't know, but yeah, I'm with you too, where there's a lot of different things they can do. They've kind of that Garrett Temple contract that just kind of sitting there is it's not really part of the rotation. I know he's a respected veteran in their locker room and all that, but now you've got CJ McCollum, you've got Valanciunas, you've got guys who can handle that. Part of it you would hope. So, is that where you go? And the other thing, them snagging Nance in that deal was like, really? Like I even right. Remember when that all kind of came down? It was like they're getting McCollum, and it was like, all right, I kind of don't hate this idea. And then when it was like later, it was like they're also getting Nance. I was like, wait, now I love this for New Orleans. Like, and then you've got that Lakers pick sitting out there. Like, what if you have lottery luck and that ends up a top 3 or 4 pick in this draft? You don't even need to use it. If you're the Pelicans, you could turn around and trade it, right? And say, no, I want player X, Y, and Z because you've got those stackable deals. Then you can get there to go get a $20-30 million player with relative ease. So I mean, as much as it looked bad early, like there, and that's also something you said too, Willie Green getting this group to just play and they could have very easily said, this sucks. It's all gone sideways. Zion isn't playing. Forget it. We're done. But just playing night after night, playing hard, getting after it. So big. I mean, that's why they were able to even make the play-in tournament. And then winning from there, big. I think they nailed the coach hire with him. I think this team is really set up to make that big jump next year. And maybe that's low-hanging fruit because Zion will be back, but I don't know how low-hanging fruit that really even is.
And the final thing I'll add here is that if they're not going to go like we want the better rim protection route around Zion, I'd like to probably see them pick up a bigger wing to just encourage more of the smaller looks with Nance on the court. You have Trey Murphy III, you have Herb Jones. Is this a team that could take a flyer on, if he's healthy, TJ Warren? Might just be interesting to help facilitate those type of units. That would not be, I prefer the rim protection route. And that was a great point on Devontae Graham, is that you could maybe argue that he was miscast. I would probably still, I think, him in a 6-man role makes so much sense, but I would still keep an option open, like if you could change up the looks at the one. But he's not on a deal that's backbreaking, so that's a great point. Him in a 6-man role is completely different. But look, you can't take minutes away from Jose Alvarado now. Like that's just
no, sure, yeah. But that's the nice thing, right? Because if all of a sudden, if you're sitting in like, all right, you know what, we have enough bench scoring, we've got enough depth at the one. Graham's contract is not so bad. Teams would look at that and say, all right, yeah, we can get him in and bring him in here, make him work. It's our scoring bench option because you nailed that Alvarado fine, undrafted 2-way and then onto the roster. Like they that's great. When you can pick those guys off, and then we didn't even mention them, but I think Trey Murphy is going to make a big jump next year. I think you're going to see it took a long time for them to use him this year. And I remember just so many Pelicans fans like, play Trey Murphy. What is going on? Please play him. Please play him. I tend to trust coaches. No, right? They see these guys every single day. So they know. But when he finally was ready, and I think a lot of it was he didn't know anything what he was doing defensively. He was such a train wreck early in the year defensively. When he finally started to figure out, all right, this is the way we want to play. Hey, you got something there. Is at least that's a big time bench shooting option, and that's something every good team is looking for. Now the Pelicans don't have to find it; they've already got it.
And I think it says a lot about how intriguing this team is that we just didn't even mention, like, what if there's a bounce back year from Najee Marshall? And what happens if Kyra Lewis is just healthy? Is he still, they have a lot of different things they could do. I think, again, they're like one of the 3 teams I'm going to be watching the most this offseason.